recent outbreak of the coronavirus COVID-19 impacts each of us differently. While it's important that we stay up to date with the latest news and information, sometimes all of that information can do us more harm than good. We're all worried about our friends and family members, but how many of us are stopping to think about our own emotional health and well-being? Sometimes things like this cause extra anxiety, more worry. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine and fellow Rotarian Marybeth Burns. She has some great tips and techniques to share with you about things that you might consider trying during this challenging time.
So I'll tell you a little bit about my story. When I was 17 years old, I developed anorexia and went through about 25 years of struggling with anorexia and bulimia and binge eating disorder, and then coming back around to anorexia. And the last time it really almost took my life, I was pretty ill. And so I went into treatment for 6 weeks actually 7 weeks at a program here in Brevard, North Carolina, and then was a day program. And now I still do outpatient work. And it became my passion to take what had happened to me and turn it around and use it for the good of other people. I think that's what we do as Rotarians. I've been a Rotarian since before I went into treatment. My husband's been a Rotarian for about 16 years now. And I just believe in what we do. And I think every little thing that we can do, we have our major programs, but I think every little thing we can do to turn around and give back is part of what we are as Rotarians. So that's part of my story, is that I go out now and I talk to school kids, I talk to coaches, I talk to parents, I talk to Rotary clubs about what are eating disorders, what's disordered eating, what does health at every size mean, what are these messages that we're getting from society, and how do we need to change how we take them in and live our lives so that we can be healthier and be able to be there when others need us. So my other big passion besides Rotary and helping people with eating disorders is veterans. And I'm very involved with Blue Ridge Honor Flight, which, as many of you may know, we take our veterans to visit their memorials in Washington, D.C. at no charge. And it's a very big healing process for many of them. And right now we're taking Vietnam War veterans as well. And I'm amazed at what it's done for them, but also learning in that process how important it is to understand PTSD and trauma. I think anybody who struggles with anything, which is all of us, whether that's alcoholism, drugs, eating disorders, anything, is related to trauma and things that happen to us in our lives. And the more we can learn about that, the more we can help one another and become a stronger society. One other thing I've done at Epiphany, which is the outpatient program, is I've started a veteran support group. So we're meeting there once a week, and they're able to just share their stories, things that they've never been able to talk about before, and continue their healing process. That's part of my story. What Rotary has done for me is given me the opportunity to bring those tools, those resources to other people in Rotary and to the community. You know, everybody's schedule has been is going through this upheaval, right? We're all having to change our lives in many, many different ways, from the basic things to the most complex things. People who usually get therapy, might not be able to access it, at least in person. Thank goodness we're able to teleconference now. So I think what's important is for us to take a step back and realize the priorities in our life, realize what we need to do on our own to sustain ourselves and keep ourselves emotionally, spiritually healthy, whether that is through a teleconference with therapists or getting on a group chat that might be a support atmosphere, whether it's reading about trauma and how to help trauma, and then taking that and turning it around to reach out to others. So we're all sort of in this kind of, what do I do now? I can't do all the normal things that I normally do. And something that's been helpful to me is to stop and say, all right, how can I turn around and reach out to somebody else? That's what we as Rotarians do, right? It feels easy when we're in an organized way. Right now, it might not feel very organized, although, Tiffany, you're doing a phenomenal job of keeping people connected with this. But what's one thing we can do to go out and reach out to other people? Now, I'm not talking about necessarily having to go outside of your house, but maybe that's starting an online chat with a group of veterans or a group of Rotarians that might be, or another group of people that are struggling with a specific issue, that you can continue those conversations. I was just saying that my son and I, we've signed up for Meals on Wheels because a lot of their volunteers are unable to make their deliveries as they normally do right now, whether it's because of their age or a compromised health situation. And so we're going to go deliver Meals on Wheels. It doesn't have to put you in a health scare situation if you use the proper equipment and you're very careful about what you're doing. I know that there's opportunities at Man a Food Bank to go and help with food from that perspective. But again, it could be as simple as calling a neighbor who might not have somebody that normally has people coming over or has different resources that they can go to, reaching out to them and just checking on them. Whether you know it or not, doing something for somebody else does tremendous things for your own mental and emotional health. I would also add in that from a spiritual perspective, whatever you practice, if you can find a way to continue to do that in a personal way. I found it amazing how on cable now you can find so much. I happen to be Catholic, and there's an actual Catholic station, and you can still see Mass. You can be a part of that. There are lots of things going on TV and on the internet where you can engage in your spiritual activity. From a physical perspective, gyms are closing, the Y is closed, there are yoga places that are closed, but a lot of these places, if you look and you're a member somewhere, they're doing things online as well. I know that I go to a yoga place and we're offering online classes, but you can do things right in your home, again, via the internet, but you can practice your own meditation. Just get up in the morning, sit down, and just focus on that breath. So I want to talk about a few different breathing methods that you can do. And then I want to talk about just a few things you can do when you're feeling a high level of anxiety. As far as the breathing goes, if you can ground yourself, and grounding is so important when you're feeling out of control or stressed. And so placing yourself in a chair that's very comfortable. I like this chair. It's very upright. It gives my back support. Some people may feel comfortable just crossing their legs and sitting on the floor. But lifting up and reaching your head up toward the top of the ceiling. And then I want you to just close your eyes, and then you can begin a breathing rhythm. So you can start with just breathing in for 2 and out for 2. And then you can increase that to 3. And then you can just keep increasing your numbers up to wherever you feel comfortable. Nice slow in-breath, and then a nice slow out-breath, keeping the same time each way. That's a great way to just take your anxiety level down many levels. The other thing that's really great when you're feeling a lot of high anxiety is to interlace your fingers over your head and glue them to your head. Sit up in a chair and push the top of your head into your fingertips and push your fingertips into your head. That helps release a lot of energy. You pull in your abdominals and you feel your feet being grounded into the floor. It just helps expend some of that energy. And then you can release your hands after a minute or two. And then I want you to just start to scan the room and take note of every single object you see in the room. So, for instance, I'm seeing a whiteboard. I see the different colored markers. The markers are pink and green and red and black. And I'm noting that in my head. And then you can scan the room and look at pictures. And that takes your focus away from some of those things that are invading your thoughts and helps you to calm down a little bit. So these are things that you can use yourself or you can share with others that I think might be very helpful for many of us during this time. But the most important thing to remember is to be kind and compassionate to yourself. We can't do a lot of the things we normally do. We might not get to work out as much as we normally do. We might not get to access necessarily the same kinds of foods that we normally do, or hang out with the people that we normally get to hang out with. But really just staying focused on, this is a time where we need to be mindful of everybody else's health, our own health, and reach out where we can, and know that this too shall pass, and that there are many positive times coming ahead.
Is there any type of specific signs that we should look for in our friends or family right now that might indicate to us they're having a more difficult situation than even they realize?
Right. Isolating. So, obviously we're all sort of isolating right now, right? But when you're reaching out to people and you're not getting responses, you can often hear in the tone of their voice how they're feeling. Maybe be thinking about some specific questions you might ask them, like, did you have breakfast this morning? What did you have for breakfast? Making sure that they're eating regularly, making sure they're able to get groceries. I know just having those kinds of conversations about their nourishment is really important, but also, what are some things that they are doing to entertain themselves and make themselves feel good spiritually? So the other day I was talking to my mom and she was saying how lonely she was. She normally goes to the nursing home to visit my dad every day, and of course they're closed. They're not allowed to go in. Talking to her about, hey, what's a movie we haven't watched in a long time that you can put on, we can talk about? So my mom just recently started texting with her flip phone that she still has. And so it's a really good opportunity for her to practice that texting and us to be able to message each other throughout the day. We talk to each other on the phone at least once a day, but then we text and we'll send funny pictures to each other and just check in and see what we've been doing. If people aren't responding or the response or the tone in their voice sounds disturbing to you, then it might be a smart idea to have a neighbor check on them. The other thing I wanted to mention was nutrition. Some of those things that we're normally able to get, maybe going to the farmer's market or something like that, might be maybe very limited at this time. It's important to know that frozen vegetables hold all the nutrients and are very, very nutritious. So going for those frozen vegetables, if you only have the ability to purchase because of budget, or other reasons, canned vegetables, it's always a good idea to just rinse those vegetables with cold water. You get some of that salt off of there, but you're still getting nutritional value. Just making sure that, again, you're being compassionate with yourself and nourishing yourself to the best of your ability. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, even when we do have things running as normal. So just being good to yourself and knowing how to balance that nutritious food with food that's still going to give us nourishment that we need.
What resources should folks know about if they do have issues or problems or concerns?
Well, one thing I'd like to extend is that people are more than welcome to email me or call me. My email address is marybeth@summitresults.com. My phone number is 828-388-4448. You're welcome to text me. But I have lots of resources I can share with you. If you are in need of talking to somebody professional, I have lots of contacts from that perspective. Or if you're really concerned about your nutritional health at this time, there are many dietitians who are doing online visits with people. So if you needed to get some help from that perspective, that's still available as well. So please feel free to call me.